Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. The alarm blared at 5:30 a.m., same as every weekday for the past 6 years. Levi Granger's hand shot out from beneath the covers, silencing it with a practice swipe. He sat up, ran a hand through his short dark hair, and stared at the wall for exactly 30 seconds. A ritual, a promise to get through another day. The floorboards creaked under his weight as he padded to the bathroom. The mirror reflected a man hardened by time, crow's feet etching deeper at the corners of his eyes, stubble peppered with the first hints of gray. 39 wasn't old, but some days it felt ancient. Silas, he called, voice rough with sleep as he knocked on his son's door 10 minutes later. Breakfast in 5. Levi moved to the kitchen, the rhythm of morning familiar in his bones. 2 plates. 2 glasses of orange juice, 2 bowls of cereal. Nothing fancy, but filling. The coffee machine gurgled and hissed as it brewed his daily salvation. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Silas burst into the kitchen with the boundless energy of a 9-year-old, his Batman pajamas rumpled from sleep. "Dad, I finally finished issue 23 last night. The Wolverine one." The boy's eyes, mirror images of Levi's own, sparkled with excitement. He got trapped in this lab, and they tried to take his adamantium, but— "Whoa there, bud." Levi lifted a hand, smiling despite himself. Spoiler alert. I haven't read that one yet. Silas plopped down at the kitchen table. "But you bought it for me 2 weeks ago. Some of us have a garage to run." Levi placed the cereal in front of his son. "Eat up. Miss Haverly doesn't like tardiness." While Silas shoveled cereal into his mouth, Levi leaned against the counter, drinking his coffee and watching his son. These quiet moments were sacred. After losing Karen to the aneurysm 3 years ago, these were the moments that kept Levi going. "Dad," Silas looked up from his now empty bowl. "Can we go fishing this weekend?" Bobby said his dad took him to Miller's Creek, and they caught a trout this big. He stretched his arms wide. "Sounds like Bobby's dad needs to work on his honesty," Levi said with a snort. "But yeah, we can go. Weather's supposed to be good Saturday." Silas punched the air. "Yes, I'm going to catch a bigger fish than you this time. In your dreams, kid." The drive to Ash Hollow Elementary was short, the benefits of living in a town you could drive across in under 10 minutes. Levi watched as Silas bounded up the school steps, backpack bouncing against his slight frame. The boy turned at the top, waved once, then disappeared inside. Levi sat in his truck for a moment longer, treasuring the warmth in his chest. Then he shifted into drive and headed to Granger Auto, the garage he'd built from the ground up after leaving the fire department. The day passed in a comfortable blur of oil changes, brake pad replacements, and one troublesome transmission. His 3 employees, Tom, Rick, and Dave, worked quietly alongside him. Knowing Levi preferred conversation limited to carburetors and catalytic converters, the T315, Levi hung up his tools and headed back to the school. He spotted Silas sitting on the bench by the flagpole, head buried in another comic book. "How was school?" Levi asked as Silas climbed into the truck. "Fine." A noncommittal shrug. "We did fractions." "You eat your lunch." A pause. Silas fidgeted with his seatbelt. "I wasn't hungry." Levi frowned, glancing at his son. "You've got to eat, bud. You need your energy." "I know, but—" Silas trailed off, staring out the window. "But what?" "Nothing." Levi let it go, but added a mental note to pack something more appealing tomorrow. Maybe those pizza rolls Silas loved, even if they were mostly preservatives and red food dye. The pattern repeated over the next week. Silas, picking at his dinner. Silas, bringing back untouched lunchboxes. Silas, growing quieter. On Friday night, they sat on the couch watching The Avengers for the dozenth time. Halfway through, Levi paused the movie and turned to his son. "All right, out with it." Silas blinked, startled. "What?" "Something's bugging you. You're not eating. You zoned out during Captain America's big scene, which you never do." The boy pulled his knees to his chest. "I'm fine." "Silas, I said I'm fine, and I'm calling bull." Levi caught himself. "Baloney. Talk to me, bud." Silas stared at the frozen TV screen. "Mom says I shouldn't eat your lunches," he finally whispered. "She brings me better food." The words hit Levi like a physical blow. He couldn't have heard correctly. What did you just say? Mom says. Your mother is gone, Silas. Levi kept his voice steady despite the sudden hammering of his heart. Karen passed away 3 years ago. Silas shook his head. Not Karen Mom. Maribel Mom. The name. That name. Levi hadn't heard it spoken aloud in their house for 6 years. Not since she'd walked out the door without so much as a goodbye to her 3-year-old son. Not since she decided Levi Granger, small-town mechanic, wasn't enough for her ambitions. Maribel. His throat tightened around the word. You've seen Maribel? Silas nodded slowly. She comes to the fence at school sometimes. During recess, she gives me cookies and stuff. Levi struggled to process this. How long has this been happening? I don't know. A few weeks. And you didn't tell me because... She said you kept her away from me. Silas's voice was small, uncertain. She said you lied to me. That she always loved me, but you wouldn't let her see me. Levi's fists clenched. 6 years of silence, and now this? Sneaking around, feeding his son God knows what, poisoning him with lies? The familiar cold fury began to build in his chest, ice spreading through his veins. Silas, listen to me. He took his son's small hands in his. I need you to tell me everything she's said to you. Everything. Monday morning, Levi dropped Silas off at school earlier than usual. Rather than heading straight to the garage, he marched toward the main office, jaw set in a hard line. Mr. Granger, the secretary greeted him with a smile. How can I help you? I need to speak with Principal Kaufman. Now. Something in his tone wiped the smile from her face. Let me see if he's available. 5 minutes later, Levi sat across from Principal Kaufman, a balding man with kind eyes and a perpetually rumpled suit. Levi, what seems to be the problem? Someone's been approaching my son during recess, passing him food through the fence. Levi's words were clipped precise. I want to see your security footage. Kaufman's brow furrowed. That's concerning. Of course, we can check. When did this happen? According to Silas, multiple times over the past few weeks. A phone call later, Ms. Haverly appeared at the office door. Silas's 4th-grade teacher was young, no more than 30, with a perpetual look of gentle concern. Mr. Granger, Principal Kaufman, mentioned a security concern. My son says someone's been meeting him at the fence during recess, giving him food. Miss Haverly's eyes widened. That would explain a few things. Silas has been acting differently lately, more withdrawn in class, and he stopped eating with the other children about 3 weeks ago. I need to see the security footage, Levi repeated. 10 minutes later, they huddled around a small monitor in the security office. The school's resource officer, Officer Taylor, scrolled through footage from the previous week. There, Miss Haverly pointed at the screen. Wednesday, during the afternoon recess. The grainy footage showed children scattered across the playground. Officer Taylor zoomed in on the back fence, where a small figure, unmistakably Silas, stood alone. A moment later, an adult approached from the other side. Red coat, large sunglasses, medium-length blonde hair. Levi's stomach turned to stone. Even with the poor quality and the distance, he recognized her instantly. Maribel. The footage showed her passing something through the fence. Silas took it, looking around furtively before unwrapping what appeared to be a small package of food. Officer Taylor fast-forwarded. She appears again on Friday. More footage, the same scene, different day, and the Monday before. This is completely unacceptable, Principal Kaufman said gravely. We'll increase supervision immediately and alert all staff. I want to know how she got that close to begin with, Levi growled. That fence is supposed to keep strangers out. The playground backs up to public property, Officer Taylor explained. We can't legally prevent someone from walking on the sidewalk there. So my son's safety comes second to her right to lurk around a schoolyard. Levi stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. I want a restraining order. Mr. Granger, Miss Haverly said gently, I understand you're upset, but there are procedures. She abandoned him. Levi cut in. 6 years ago. No calls, no cards, nothing. Now she shows up out of nowhere, feeds him who knows what, and fills his head with lies. This isn't a custody dispute. This is... He stopped, forced himself to breathe. This is wrong. Officer Taylor nodded. I'll help you file a report. We can request a temporary order based on the unusual circumstances, but ultimately, without evidence of direct harm. Trust me, Levi said coldly. She's not here to play happy family. That evening, after dinner, Levi sat Silas down at the kitchen table. The boy looked nervous, eyes darting to the doorway as if planning an escape route. Am I in trouble? Silas asked. No, bud, you're not in trouble. Levi kept his voice gentle, though his insides churned with rage, not at his son, never at his son. I just need you to tell me more about these meetings with Maribel. Silas shifted in his seat. She said she's my real mom. She's your biological mother, Levi acknowledged carefully. But she left when you were very young. She said it wasn't her fault, that you made her go away. Levi bit back, a harsh retort. That's not true, Silas. She chose to leave. She gives me special treats. Cupcakes and stuff. Silas suddenly doubled over, clutching his stomach. Dad, my tummy hurts again. Alarm surged through Levi. Again? Has this happened before? Silas nodded miserably. A couple times. After eating the cupcakes. Why didn't you tell me? She said. Silas broke off as another cramp hit him. He turned pale. She said you'd be mad if you knew I was talking to her. Levi helped Silas to the bathroom, just in time. The boy vomited violently, his small body shaking with the effort. When he finished, Levi wiped his face with a damp cloth and carried him to bed. I don't feel good, Silas whispered. I know, bud. Levi smoothed his son's hair back from his forehead. Try to get some sleep. I'll check on you in a bit. Once Silas had drifted off, Levi retreated to the kitchen and pulled out his phone. He dialed a familiar number. Alora? It's me. We've got a problem. The Fall Festival transformed the center of Ash Hollow every October, with carnival games, craft booths, and enough fried food to send the whole town into cardiac arrest. In previous years, Levi had avoided the crush of people, preferring quiet fishing trips with Silas instead. But this year, Silas had begged to go, and after the week they'd had, Levi couldn't refuse him anything. Can I try to win that one? Silas pointed at an enormous plush dragon hanging from the ring toss booth. Sure thing, bud. Levi handed over a $5 bill to the attendant. 3 rings, please. As Silas focused intently on his throws, Levi scanned the crowd. He hadn't mentioned to Silas, but Alora had texted earlier. She's here. Red coat. East side by the funnel cakes. Dad, look, I got one. Silas jumped excitedly as his second ring caught on a bottle. Great job. One more to go. Levi continued his survey of the festival grounds. Then he saw her. Maribel stood by the funnel cake stand, dressed in an expensive-looking red peacoat, her blonde hair falling in perfect waves around her shoulders. She looked exactly as she had 6 years ago, not a day older, like she'd been preserved in amber. Beside her stood a tall man with close-cropped hair and the hard physique of someone who spent serious time at the gym. Silas's third ring clattered to the ground. Darn it. Here you go, young man. The booth attendant handed him a small stuffed penguin. Consolation prize. Thanks. Silas turned to Levi. It's not the dragon, but it's still cool. Very cool, Levi agreed, forcing a smile. Listen, I just saw Miss Haverly over there. I need to talk to her about your science project. Why don't you check out the games while I do that? By myself. Silas's eyes widened. You're 9 now. I think you can handle it. Levi pulled out a 20. Stay where I can see you. No leaving this area. Okay. As Silas darted off toward the balloon dart throw, Levi made his way through the crowd toward Maribel. She spotted him coming. A slow, calculated smile spread across her face as she whispered something to the man beside her. Well, she said as Levi approached. Look what the cat dragged in. What are you doing here, Maribel? Levi kept his voice low, conscious of the families milling around them. It's a public event. She took a delicate bite of funnel cake. And I grew up here too. Remember? I have every right to enjoy the festival. Cut the crap. You've been stalking our son. Our son. She emphasized the word. Funny how you remember that now. The man beside her shifted, drawing himself up to his full height, at least 2 inches taller than Levi. This him? He asked Maribel, looking Levi up and down with undisguised contempt. Levi, this is Colt Rennick. Maribel slipped her arm through Colt's. My boyfriend. Colt didn't offer his hand. Heard a lot about you. Funny, I've heard nothing about you. Levi turned his attention back to Maribel. Stay away from Silas. Maribel's smile never faltered, but her eyes hardened. You look tired, Levi. Still playing mechanic? How's that working out for you? My work isn't the issue. You sneaking around my son's school, filling his head with lies, and making him sick, that's the issue. Making him sick. She widened her eyes in mock horror. I would never. I've only been trying to give my son some decent food for once. God knows what you feed him. He threw up after eating your treats. Twice. Kids get stomach bugs all the time. She shrugged one elegant shoulder. Maybe you should take better care of him. Levi took a step closer, lowering his voice to a dangerous whisper. I filed a police report. If you go near the school again, they'll arrest you. On what charges? Colt interjected, moving slightly in front of Maribel. Being a mother who abandoned her 3-year-old and didn't contact him for 6 years isn't a mother at all. Maribel's facade cracked slightly, a flash of anger in her eyes. You don't know anything about why I left. I know enough. I made mistakes, she said, voice suddenly softer, vulnerable. I was young, scared, but I've changed. I just want to reconnect with my son. Is that so wrong? Before Levi could respond, a familiar voice called out behind him. There you are. Elora Stein approached, her dark curly hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing jeans and a baggy Ash Hollow Hospital sweatshirt. She stopped beside Levi, eyeing Maribel and Colt with open suspicion. Elora, Maribel said coolly. Still playing nurse? Still saving lives, Elora corrected. Unlike some people who only know how to destroy them. Maribel laughed, the sound brittle. Always so dramatic. Dad! Silas appeared suddenly, clutching a small plastic toy. I won this at the... He stopped, noticing the tense group of adults. His eyes locked on Maribel. Mom. The word sent a knife through Levi's heart. Maribel's entire demeanor changed. She crouched down, arms outstretched. Silas. My beautiful boy. Come give Mommy a hug. Silas hesitated, looking uncertainly at Levi. Silas, Levi said carefully, why don't you go with Elora to get some cotton candy? I'll be right there. But, now please. Elora took Silas's hand. Come on, kiddo. Let's give the grown-ups a minute. As they walked away, Maribel straightened, the maternal mask slipping. You can't keep him from me forever. Watch me. I've already filed for joint custody, she said smugly. My lawyer says I have an excellent case. After all, you've deliberately alienated him from his mother. Your lawyer's taking your money for nothing. No judge is going to give custody to someone who abandoned their child. Is that what you've been telling people? She pouted theatrically. Poor Levi, whose wife abused him and ran off. That's not how I remember it. Colt snickered. Not how she told it to me. I don't give a damn what lies you've been spreading, Levi said. But I'm warning you. Stay away from my son. Our son, Maribel corrected again. And I'm just getting started, Levi. See, unlike you, I have plans. Big ones. And Silas is going to be part of them, whether you like it or not. Levi felt the familiar ice spreading through him, the cold calculation that had gotten him through the worst calls as a firefighter, the detachment that let him think clearly when others panicked. You always did mistake my patience for weakness, Maribel, he said quietly. That was your first mistake. Don't make another one. He turned and walked away, every muscle tense with the effort not to look back. He found Elora and Silas by the cotton candy stand. Silas was licking blue sugar from his fingers, his earlier unease apparently forgotten. Everything okay? Elora asked in an undertone. No, Levi replied. But it will be. I'll make sure of it. Later, after Silas had gone to bed, Elora stayed for a beer on Levi's back porch. The night was cool but not cold, stars visible through the canopy of pine trees surrounding the property. She's not here for Silas, Elora said bluntly. She's here for you. Levi took a long pull from his bottle. What makes you say that? The look in her eyes when she saw you. That wasn't maternal concern. That was hatred. Worse. Calculation. Elora shook her head. She wants something, and she's using Silas to get it. She mentioned filing for custody. Do you believe her? With Maribel, it's hard to tell what's a bluff and what's a genuine threat. Levi sighed. I need to call my lawyer tomorrow. And maybe get Silas to a doctor, Elora suggested. If she's been feeding him something that's making him sick, the thought that had been lurking in the back of Levi's mind finally surfaced. You think she's poisoning him? I think we shouldn't rule anything out. Elora's expression was grim. I've seen what desperate people do, Levi. Every day in the ER. And that woman? She reeks of desperation beneath all that perfume. Levi stared out at the dark woods. If she hurts Silas, we'll make sure she doesn't get the chance, Elora cut in. But you need to be smart about this. Whatever she's planning, she's been thinking about it for a long time. So have I, Levi said quietly. Ever since you walked out that door, I've wondered what I'd do if she ever came back. And now I know. He turned to Elora, his oldest friend, the only person who knew all his secrets. I'll do whatever it takes to protect my son. Whatever it takes. The call came during an oil change. Levi's phone vibrated in his pocket, and he almost ignored it until he saw the school's number on the display. Mr. Granger. The secretary's voice was tight with concern. You need to come to the school right away. It's Silas. The drive that normally took 7 minutes took 3. Levi burst through the doors of Ash Hollow Elementary, heart hammering in his chest. Where is he? He demanded at the front desk. Nurse's office, the secretary replied, pointing down the hall. He collapsed during math class. The nurse's office was cramped, mostly filled by a narrow cot where Silas lay curled on his side, face pale and damp with sweat. The school nurse, Mrs. Dobson, stood over him with a worried frown. Dad, Silas croaked when he saw Levi. Levi dropped to his knees beside the cot. Hey, bud, what happened? My stomach really hurts. Silas's voice was weak. And I threw up in class. It was gross. Billy Ellison laughed. Billy Ellison is an idiot, Levi said automatically, earning a weak smile from his son. He looked up at the nurse. What's wrong with him? I suspect food poisoning, Mrs. Dobson said. His symptoms include nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps. He said he ate a cupcake before class. Levi's blood ran cold. Who gave you a cupcake, Silas? Silas's eyes slid away. Found it in my backpack. You need to take him to the doctor, Mrs. Dobson advised. This is the second time in 2 weeks he's been in my office with similar symptoms. I'm taking him straight to the hospital. 20 minutes later, they were in the ER at Ash Hollow Community Hospital. Levi had called ahead, and Elora was waiting for them when they arrived. Exam room 3, she said, leading them past the intake desk. I've got Dr. Reeves on standby. A nurse took Silas's vitals while Levi filled out paperwork. Dr. Reeves, a stern woman in her 50s with prematurely white hair, entered shortly after. Food poisoning, from what I understand. She flipped through the chart. Any known allergies, Silas? No, Silas mumbled. He ate a cupcake at school, Levi explained. Didn't know where it came from. Started feeling sick after. Dr. Reeves examined Silas, then stepped into the hallway to confer with Elora. Levi strained to hear their murmured conversation. Unusual symptoms for simple food poisoning. Could be something more toxic. Blood tests. When they returned, Dr. Reeves's expression was carefully neutral. We're going to run some tests, Mr. Granger. Silas will need to stay for a few hours. Levi nodded, trying to ignore the knot of dread in his stomach. Whatever he needs. Later, while Silas slept in the hospital bed, Elora pulled Levi into an empty consultation room. The preliminary tests showed trace amounts of ethylene glycol in his system, she said without preamble. What's that? Antifreeze. The word hung in the air between them. Levi stared at her, uncomprehending. Antifreeze. A very small dose. Not enough to cause permanent damage, but enough to make him sick. Are you telling me someone deliberately poisoned my son? Elora held up a hand. We can't prove intent. It could be contamination, something on the baking surface, improper cleaning of. Bullshit. Levi's fist slammed into the wall, leaving a small dent in the drywall. This is her. You don't know that. I know exactly that. His voice was cold, certain. She's poisoning him. Just enough to make him sick, not enough to kill him. What? If it is her, Elora said carefully, she might be setting a pattern. making it look like he gets sick under your care. The pieces clicked into place. For the custody case, she's building evidence. It's possible. Alora squeezed his arm, but without proof. Then get proof. Levi's eyes burned with determination. Run every test. Document everything. I want a record that my son was poisoned today. Dr. Reeves ordered a full toxicology panel. The results confirmed Alora's assessment. Traces of ethylene glycol, consistent with antifreeze poisoning, but in quantities too small to cause lasting harm. The hospital filed a mandatory report with Child Protective Services, who sent a caseworker to interview Levi and Silas the following day. Mr. Granger, the caseworker, Ms. Phillips, was young but with weary eyes that had seen too much. Can you think of any way your son might have come into contact with antifreeze? Do you work on cars at home? I own a garage, but I don't bring chemicals home, Levi said flatly. And I keep the garage spotless. My guys know the rules. Could Silas have gotten into something at school? Or at a friend's house? He ate a cupcake someone put in his backpack. That's what made him sick. Miss Phillips made a note. And who had access to his backpack? It stays in his cubby at school. Anyone could have put something in it. You mentioned in your statement that you suspect your ex-wife may be involved. Levi explained about Maribel's return, the meetings at the fence, the previous stomach upsets that coincided with Silas eating food she'd given him. Has she made any threats? Indicated she wants custody of Silas. She told me she's filing for joint custody, but she abandoned him 6 years ago. Never called, never visited. Now suddenly she's back with a boyfriend, passing him food through the school fence, telling him I kept her away from him. Ms. Phillips's expression remained carefully neutral. I'll need to speak with her. Good luck with that. She's a professional liar. After the caseworker left, Alora brought Silas a popsicle and sat with him while Levi stepped outside to call his lawyer. Mike, I need you to file for a restraining order. Today, Levi paced the hospital parking lot. She's escalating. Levi, slow down. Mike Carver had been a friend before he was Levi's lawyer. Who's escalating? What's going on? Levi explained the situation in clipped sentences. Jesus, Mike exhaled heavily. Okay, I'll file for an emergency temporary restraining order. But without direct evidence linking her to the poisoning, it might not stick. She's going to hurt him again. I know it. Then we need to be smarter than her, Mike said. Set up surveillance. Document everything. If she's filed for custody like she claims, we need to be ready to fight. Trust me, Levi said grimly. I'm ready. Later, when Silas was clear to go home, Levi tucked him into bed with a glass of ginger ale and his favorite stuffed dog, a worn beagle named Rusty. You feeling better, bud? Silas nodded. A little. Dad, yeah, Mom said not to tell you about the cupcake. His voice was small, uncertain. She said you'd be mad at me. Levi sat on the edge of the bed. I'm not mad at you, Silas. Not ever. But I need you to promise me something. What? Don't eat anything she gives you anymore. No matter what she says. Tears welled in Silas's eyes. But she'll be sad. She says she misses me. If she misses you, she can talk to my lawyer. Levi softened his tone. I know this is confusing, but right now, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Silas nodded slowly. I guess. Good boy. Levi kissed his forehead. Get some sleep. Things will look better in the morning. But as Levi left the room, he knew things wouldn't be better. This was just the beginning. The restraining order was denied. Without direct evidence linking Maribel to the poisoning, the judge deemed the request speculative and potentially vindictive. Mike had warned Levi it was a long shot, but the rejection still burned. We need to try a different approach, Mike advised over the phone. Has she formally filed for custody yet? Nothing's been served, Levi replied, watching from the kitchen window as Silas kicked a soccer ball around the backyard. But it's coming. I can feel it. Then we need to be proactive. I'm filing for a formal custody hearing before she does. Established custody favors the continuous caregiver, which is you. Do what you need to do. A week after Silas's hospitalization, Levi pulled into the school parking lot to pick him up and froze. A sleek black Range Rover was parked near the exit. Leaning against it, scrolling through her phone with practiced disinterest, was Maribel. Beside her, Colt stood with arms crossed, surveying the school grounds like a prison guard. Levi parked and stalked toward them. What are you doing here? Maribel looked up with feigned surprise. Picking up my son, of course. You don't have custody. You don't have visitation. You don't have anything. Actually, she pulled a document from her purse. I have this. Levi scanned the paper. A temporary order allowing Maribel supervised visits with Silas twice weekly, pending a full custody hearing. This is bullshit, he growled. You haven't been in his life for 6 years. A grave mistake I'm rectifying. Her smile was diamond sharp. The judge was very sympathetic when I explained how you've kept me from my son. I kept you. You left. You walked out without a backward glance. That's not how I remember it. She glanced over his shoulder. Ah, there he is. Silas. Over here, sweetheart. Silas had emerged from the school, backpack slung over one shoulder. He spotted them and froze, uncertainty clear on his face. Dad, he called, not moving. It's okay, bud. Levi called back, never taking his eyes off Maribel. Go wait in the truck. I'll be right there. Silas hesitated, then darted toward Levi's truck, throwing a wary glance at Maribel and Colt as he passed. He doesn't want to see you, Levi said flatly. Because you've poisoned him against me, Maribel countered. But that will change. Our first supervised visit is tomorrow at 4. The community center. Don't be late. And I'll be there, Colt added with a smirk. Keeping an eye on things. Levi took a step closer to him. You stay away from my son. Or what, grease monkey? Colt's eyes glittered with anticipation. You gonna do something about it? Careful, Colt. Maribel placed a manicured hand on his arm. Levi has a temper. Wouldn't want him to make a scene in front of all these parents. Levi forced himself to step back. This isn't over. Oh, it's only just beginning, Maribel smiled. See you tomorrow, Levi. Don't forget 4 o'clock sharp. In the truck, Silas was hunched in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead. You okay, bud? Levi asked, starting the engine. Do I have to go with her? For now, yes. But I'll be there too. Levi pulled out of the parking lot, deliberately not looking at the Range Rover. It's only for an hour. What she tries to give me more food. There will be a supervisor there. Someone from the court. They'll make sure everything's safe. Silas picked at a loose thread on his backpack. Why did she leave us before? The question Levi had dreaded for years. He'd always known it would come eventually, but he'd hoped for more time. More distance from the wound. Sometimes, he began carefully, people make choices that are best for them but not for the people they leave behind. Your mother, she wanted different things than what we had here. Like what? Money. Excitement. A life beyond Ash Hollow. But she came back. Yes, she did. Why? Because she wants something, Levi thought, and she'll use you to get it. But he couldn't say that to a 9-year-old who just wanted to understand why his mother had abandoned him. I don't know, bud, he said instead, but we'll figure out together. The supervised visit was as tense as Levi had expected. The community center had a small room set aside for such occasions. Neutral territory with board games, books, and a watchful court-appointed observer named Mrs. Benson. Maribel arrived alone, no Colt, to Levi's surprise wearing a demure blue dress and minimal makeup. She looked like a PDA mom, not the glossy predator from the parking lot. Silas sat stiffly beside Levi on a small couch. I'll be right outside, Mrs. Benson told Levi. You can wait in the hallway. I prefer to stay. That's not how this works, Mr. Granger. Ms. Huxley is entitled to private time with her son. Reluctantly, Levi joined the supervisor in the hall, positioning himself where he could see through the small window in the door. Inside, Maribel sat across from Silas, speaking softly, her expression earnest. After a few minutes, she pulled out a deck of cards, and they began to play by the end of the hour. Silas was smiling. Not the wide, uninhibited grin Levi was used to, but a smile nonetheless. It twisted something in Levi's chest. Your son seems to have enjoyed himself, Mrs. Benson commented as they prepared to leave. Before Levi could respond, Maribel emerged with Silas. Same time Friday, she asked brightly. We'll be here, Levi replied, taking Silas's hand. Bye, sweetie. Maribel bent to kiss Silas's cheek. I had so much fun today. In the truck, Silas was quiet again. So, Levi ventured. How was it? Okay, I guess. Silas shrugged. We play Go Fish. She let me win. That was nice of her. She said she's sorry she went away. Silas turned to look at Levi. She said she was sick before, but now she's better and wants to be my mom again. Is that true? Levi's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I don't know, Silas. She didn't try to give me any food. That's good. Her boyfriend wasn't there. No, he wasn't. I don't like him, Silas said suddenly, with surprising vehemence. He looks at me weird. Levi's protective instincts flared. Weird how? I don't know. Like he's mad at me, even though I didn't do anything. Has he said anything to you? Silas hesitated. No, Silas. Levi pulled the truck over to the side of the road. If he said something to you, I need to know. It wasn't to me, Silas mumbled. I heard him talking to her after soccer practice last week. Before you picked me up. Levi frowned. They were at your soccer practice? Silas nodded. They were watching from their car. I saw them when I went to get my water bottle. They didn't see me coming. What did you hear? He said, the kid's not worth this much trouble. And she said, the kid is our ticket. Just be patient. Silas looked up, his eyes troubled. What did she mean, Dad? What am I a ticket to? Levi's mind raced. They've been watching him, planning, using him. I don't know, bud, but I'm going to find out. The next day, Levi installed cameras around the perimeter of their house. Small, unobtrusive devices that would alert his phone if they detected movement. He added new deadbolts to the doors and windows. Isn't this a bit much? Elora asked, watching him work. Not if it keeps him safe. Have you told the court about what Silas overheard? Mike says it's hearsay. The word of a 9-year-old against 2 adults. What about the poisoning? Without proof that she did it? Circumstantial. So what's your plan? Levi tested the new lock on the back door. Get proof. Over the next 2 weeks, Maribel and Colt became fixtures in Silas's life. They attended every soccer game, sitting prominently in the bleachers, waving supportively whenever Silas looked their way. They appeared at school events, Maribel charming the teachers, Colt hanging back with a practice smile that never reaches eyes. The supervised visits continued twice weekly. Silas came home from each one a little more confused, a little more torn. Mom says I could have my own room at her apartment, he reported after one visit. With a PlayStation. That sounds nice, Levi managed, heart sinking. She said maybe I could stay over sometimes. Would that be okay? We'll see what the judge says. The custody hearing was set for the following month. Mike prepared Levi for the worst. She's good, Mike admitted grudgingly. The perfect repentant mother. She's got character witnesses lined up, people from church, her landlord, even a therapist who will testify she's worked through her abandonment issues. It's all an act, Levi insisted. I know that. You know that. But the court sees a mother trying to reconnect with her son. They like reunification stories. What about Silas? What does he want? He's 9. The court will consider his wishes, but they won't be determinative. Levi rubbed his face. So we're screwed. Not necessarily. We just need to be patient. If she's as unstable as you say, she'll slip up eventually. We just need to be there when she does. The slip came sooner than expected. After the 4th supervised visit, Silas returned looking pale and withdrawn. What happened? Levi asked, immediately concerned. Nothing. Silas. I said nothing. Silas shouted, then burst into tears. I want to go home. At home, Silas locked himself in his room, refusing to talk. Levi called Elora in desperation. Let me try, she said, arriving 20 minutes later with Silas's favorite ice cream. Silas opened the door for her, and they talked quietly for nearly an hour. When Elora finally emerged, her expression was grim. Colt was at the visit today, she said once they were alone in the kitchen. Apparently Mrs. Benson had to step out for a phone call. While she was gone, Colt told Silas that soon he'd be living with them full-time, and he'd better get used to following their rules. Son of a... That's not all. Elora lowered her voice. When Silas said he wanted to stay with you, Colt grabbed his arm. Hard. There are bruises. Levi was already halfway to the door. I'll kill him. Elora blocked his path. That's exactly what they want. You assault Colt, you lose Silas for good. Think, Levi. With supreme effort, Levi reined in his rage. We need to document the bruises. Call the police. Already done. Officer Taylor is on his way. He'll take photos, file a report. And then we wait for their next move. It came 2 days later. Levi was working late at the garage when he received a text from an unknown number. Meet me at Danner's Point. 8 p.m. Come alone. Danner's Point was an overlook on the outskirts of town, popular with teenagers but mostly deserted on weeknights. Levi knew he should ignore the message, but curiosity and the chance for answers drove him to the meeting. That he arrived at 7:55 p.m., parking his truck at the small lot at the base of the hiking trail. The walk to the overlook took 5 minutes. As he emerged from the trees, he saw a figure silhouetted against the twilight sky. Maribel, alone, smoking a cigarette. "I'm surprised you came," she said without turning. "What do you want, Maribel?" She took a long drag, exhaled slowly. "To make a deal." "There's no deal to make." "Oh, I think there is." She turned to face him, her expression hard in the fading light. Colt hit the boy. That was stupid, impulsive, but useful. Useful. Levi's hands clenched into fists. Now we all know what's at stake. She flicked her cigarette over the edge of the cliff. "I don't actually want the boy, Levi. He's whiny, clingy, not my style." "Then what do you want?" "Half the business, half your land, and the house, if I feel generous." She smiled coldly. "The garage is worth, what, $250,000 now? The land another $500,000 in this market? Not bad for a small-town nobody. Why now? After 6 years. Because I need it now." Something flashed in her eyes, desperation, quickly masked. "Things didn't work out in Portland. The man I left you for, let's just say he wasn't as invested in our future as I was. So you thought you'd come back and take what's mine? What should have been partly mine all along?" She stepped closer. "I wasted my youth with you, Levi, cleaning your blood off our carpet while you played hero at the fire department. You think you're better than me? You left me with nothing. But now, I'm going to take everything." "You'll get nothing," Levi said flatly. "Not my son, not my business, not a damn thing." "Then I'll take Silas." Her voice hardened. "I'll get full custody, make his life miserable, send him to boarding school. Let Colt discipline him." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." She checked her watch. "You have until the custody hearing to decide. Sign over what I want, or lose the boy for good." She brushed past him, heading for the trail. "Oh, and Levi, don't try anything stupid. I've learned a few things in the last 6 years. One of them is how to destroy a man without leaving a mark." Levi stood at the overlook long after she'd gone, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. The cold fury that had sustained him gave way to something else. Resolve. She wanted a war? He would give her one, but first, he needed evidence. The custody hearing loomed closer. Levi spent every spare moment gathering ammunition. School records showing Silas's decline since Maribel's return, medical reports from the poisoning incident, photographs of the bruises Colt had left on Silas's arm. But it wasn't enough. Without direct evidence linking Maribel to the poisoning or proving her ulterior motives, it was still her word against his. The supervised visits continued, now with a different observer, a stern man named Mr. Warner, who never left the room and watched Colt like a hawk on the occasions he attended. Silas came home from these visits increasingly confused, repeating things Maribel had told him. That Levi had forced her out, that he'd refused to let her contact Silas, that she'd sent birthday cards that Levi had hidden. "Is it true, Dad?" Silas asked one night as Levi tucked him in. "Did you keep her letters from me?" "No, bud." Levi sat on the edge of the bed. There were never any letters, never any calls. She chose to leave, and she chose to stay gone. "She says you're lying." "I know she does." Silas turned his face into his pillow. "I don't know who to believe anymore." The words cut Levi to the bone. He stroked his son's hair gently. "Trust your gut, Silas. You know the truth, deep down. You always have." A week before the hearing, Levi left the garage early to pick Silas up from school. As he approached the elementary, he noticed a familiar black Range Rover parked down the street. Maribel stood beside it, deep in conversation with Miss Haverly. Levi parked and walked toward them, catching the tail end of their conversation. "Just worried about his emotional health," Maribel was saying. "The way Levi isolates him, it can't be good for a growing boy." Miss Haverly nodded sympathetically. "Silas has been more withdrawn lately. I've noticed." She stopped as she spotted Levi. Mr. Granger, we were just discussing Silas's progress. Were you? Levi's tone was icy. Maribel smiled sweetly. Just catching up with Silas's teacher. As his mother, I have a right to know how he's doing in school. As the person who abandoned him for 6 years, you have no rights at all. Mr. Granger, Miss Haverly looked uncomfortable. I understand this is a difficult situation, but nothing. She's manipulating you, just like she's trying to manipulate my son. Don't fall for it. The teacher looked between them, clearly unsure. I should get back to my classroom. Of course, Maribel touched her arm. Thank you for your time. As Miss Haverly hurried back toward the school, Maribel's smile dropped. You're making this harder than it needs to be, Levi. You're damn right I am. The hearing is in a week. My offer still stands. Sign over what I want, and you keep the boy. Everyone wins. Except me. I lose my business, my home. You keep what matters most, don't you? She raised an eyebrow. Or maybe the boy doesn't matter as much as you pretend. You miscalculated, Maribel. Levi took a step closer. You always saw my patience as weakness, my restraint as fear. That was your mistake. For the first time, a flicker of unease crossed her face. Is that a threat? Just an observation. He turned and walked away, heading into the school to collect Silas. That night, after Silas was asleep, Levi sat at his kitchen table with Mike and Alora, planning their strategy for the hearing. The bruises are good evidence, Mike said, shuffling through their documents. But Maribel will claim she wasn't there, that it was all Colt. She'll throw him under the bus if she has to. And the poisoning? Alora asked. Still circumstantial. We can prove Silas was poisoned, but not who did it. What about her threat? Levi recounted the meeting at Danner's Point. She admitted she doesn't even want Silas. She just wants to use him as leverage. Your word against hers. Mike sighed. Unless what? Unless we had it on tape. Levi straightened. I could wear a wire. Get her to admit it again. Mike shook his head. Too risky. She's already suspicious. And depending on state laws, recordings without consent might not be admissible. Then what? We need something concrete. Financial records showing she's in trouble. Evidence of the poisoning. Proof of her real motives. Alora tapped her fingers on the table thoughtfully. What about her car? What about it? Could you plan a recording device? Something small, unobtrusive. Catch her and Colt talking when they think no one's listening. Levi considered this. I need access to her car. The next supervised visit, Mike suggested. While she's inside with Silas, you could break in her car? That's illegal. Not if you don't break anything. Alora's eyes gleamed. My brother works for that security firm in Portland. He has gadgets that can unlock a car without leaving a trace. Levi looked between his friends. You realize what you're suggesting? I'm suggesting we fight fire with fire, Alora said firmly. She's playing dirty. Maybe it's time we did too. I can't officially endorse this plan, Mike added. But unofficially, we're running out of options. Levi nodded slowly. Get the gadgets. I'll take care of the rest. The next supervised visit was scheduled for Tuesday afternoon. As usual, Levi dropped Silas off at the community center, noting with satisfaction that Maribel had once again driven there alone. Her Range Rover sat in the corner of the parking lot, partially obscured by a large SUV. I'll be back in an hour, bud, Levi told Silas, hugging him tightly. Remember what we talked about? Silas nodded solemnly. The night before, Levi had coached him on a plan. Keep Maribel talking, ask about her past, her childhood, anything to keep her in the room for the full hour. As Silas disappeared inside with Mr. Warner, Levi casually walked to his truck, then doubled back toward Maribel's Range Rover, keeping the SUV between him and the community center windows. In his pocket was a small device Alora's brother had provided, a magnetic audio recorder no bigger than a matchbox. Using the electronic lockpick, he had the car open in seconds. He placed the recorder under the passenger's seat, activated it, and slipped back out, locking the door behind him. The entire operation took less than a minute. Levi spent the hour at a coffee shop across the street, nursing an Americano and checking his watch obsessively. When it was time to pick up Silas, he returned to find the boy waiting with Mr. Warner. Good session today, the supervisor commented. They played some board games, talked about school. Where's Ms. Huxley? Levi asked, noticing her absence. Got a phone call, had to step out. Said to tell Silas goodbye for her. As they walked to the truck, Silas looked up at Levi. Did it work? I don't know yet, bud. But you did great. 2 days passed with no word from Alora's brother, who had promised to retrieve the recorder at the next opportunity. On Friday evening, as Levi and Silas were eating dinner, Levi's phone buzzed with a text. Got it. Meet at E's after 9. After Silas was asleep, Levi drove to Alora's small bungalow on the other side of town. Mike's car was already in the driveway, alongside a black pickup he didn't recognize. Inside, Alora introduced her brother, James, a lanky man in his early 30s with the same curly hair and sharp eyes as his sister. Managed to grab it during their dinner date, James explained, placing a laptop on Alora's coffee table. They parked behind a steakhouse and went inside. Took all of 30 seconds. Any good? Mike asked. Oh yeah. James's mouth curved in a grim smile. Real good. He tapped a few keys, and Maribel's voice filled the room, tinny but clear. The idiot kid almost puked at school. Colt said I should have used more, he's getting soft. Colt's deeper voice responded. Once Levi snaps, we report him. Boom. Custody. You sell the house. We're out. How much longer do we have to play this game? Maribel again, whining. The boy is starting to ask questions. Getting attached. Just until the hearing. Then we use the evidence we've got, paint Levi as an abuser, get custody. 6 months tops. We flip the properties and head south. 6 months with a 9-year-old. Maribel sighed dramatically. The things I do for money. There was more excruciating details of their plan to provoke Levi into violence. Discussions of which properties were worth the most, even casual mentions of the special cupcakes they'd been feeding Silas. When the recording ended, the room was silent. We got them, Alora whispered. Maybe not, Mike cautioned. This recording was obtained illegally. It's not admissible in court. Then what was the point? Levi demanded. Information. Mike leaned forward. Now we know exactly what we're dealing with. And maybe there's a way to use this information without using the actual recording. How? We anonymously tip off CPS. Send them a copy of the audio, claiming it came from a concerned neighbor who overheard them. CPS has to investigate any credible report. That could work, James admitted. It's how we often get evidence to the right people without compromising sources. Do it, Levi decided. Today. The next morning, Mike called with news. CPS had received an anonymous tip and was reopening their investigation into Silas's poisoning. The custody hearing would be delayed pending the outcome. This buys us time, Mike explained. And if they find enough to charge Maribel with child endangerment, she loses any shot at custody, Levi finished. Exactly. The delay enraged Maribel. She showed up at Levi's garage the following Monday, storming past the front desk and into the service bay, where Levi was replacing a timing belt. What did you do? She demanded, her normally perfect appearance slightly disheveled, eyes wild with fury. Levi straightened slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. I'm in the middle of work, Maribel. The hearing is delayed. CPS is asking questions again. What did you do? Nothing that wasn't warranted. Her eyes narrowed. You're playing a dangerous game, Levi. No game. Just protecting my son. He's my son, too. She stepped closer, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You owe me, Levi. I wasted my youth cleaning your blood off our carpet while you played hero. You think you're better? You left me with nothing. But now, I'm going to take everything. Levi met her gaze steadily. You already tried that line at Danner's Point. Didn't work then either. Her composure cracked further. You think you're so clever, but you have no idea what I'm capable of. Actually, I think I do. Levi turned back to the engine. Now get out of my garage before I call the police. With a final glare, she spun on her heel and stalked out. That evening, after Silas was in bed, Levi stood on his back porch, staring at the dark line of trees that marked the boundary of his property. His phone buzzed with a text from Alora. CPS moving fast. M and C being questioned tomorrow. Good, he replied. But it's not enough. What are you thinking? Levi hesitated, then typed, time to set a trap. The CPS investigation progressed slowly but steadily. After interviewing Maribel and Colt separately, They requested additional toxicology reports from the hospital and interviewed Silas's teachers and doctors. The custody hearing remained on hold, much to Maribel's visible frustration. "She's getting desperate," Elora observed one evening, watching from Levi's living room window as Maribel's Range Rover drove slowly past the house for the third time that week. "That's when people make mistakes. Or when they get more dangerous," Levi countered, drawing the curtains closed. "Silas says she's been leaving voicemails on his school iPad, saying I'm keeping them apart, that I'm going to send him away to boarding school. Can she access his iPad remotely? Shouldn't be able to. I changed all the passwords after she showed up. Check anyway," Elora advised. "She's resourceful." That night, after Silas was asleep, Levi examined his son's iPad. Sure enough, there were a dozen voicemails from an unknown number. Maribel's voice, alternately cajoling and distressed, telling Silas how much she missed him, how cruel his father was being, how they'd be together soon if he just did exactly as she said. "Jesus," Levi muttered, forwarding the messages to Mike. "More evidence," he texted. "She's directly contacting him against court orders." The next morning, he took the iPad to the local tech shop and had it completely wiped and reset, with new parental controls that would flag any suspicious contacts. But the damage was done. Silas grew more withdrawn, torn between his loyalty to Levi and the manipulative pull of the mother he barely knew but desperately wanted to believe in. "She says you're lying about everything," Silas confessed one night during dinner. "That you're the one who poisoned me to make her look bad." Levi set down his fork, stomach churning. "Do you believe that?" Silas stared at his plate. "No, I don't think so." But what? Why would she say it if it wasn't true? Moms aren't supposed to lie. Some people lie for all kinds of reasons, bud. Even parents. She says she has proof, that she's going to show it in court, and then I'll have to live with her." A chill ran down Levi's spine. "What kind of proof? Pictures or something?" "I don't know." Silas pushed his peas around his plate. "Dad, I don't want to live with her. Her boyfriend scares me." Levi reached across the table and squeezed his son's hand. "You won't have to. I promise." That night, Levi called Mike with a new plan. "I want to file for full custody and terminate her parental rights completely. No more supervised visits. No more contact. On what grounds? Child endangerment. Emotional manipulation. The bruises from Colt. The poisoning. The illegal contact. All of it. It's a lot to ask of the court," Mike warned. "Terminating parental rights is an extreme measure. So is poisoning your child to gain custody of property," Levi countered. "Make it happen, Mike." The next day, armed with a court order, Levi took Silas to meet with an independent child psychologist recommended by CPS. Dr. Francis Wynn had 30 years of experience evaluating children in custody disputes and a reputation for cutting through adult manipulation to reach the truth. While Levi waited in the outer office, Silas spent 2 hours with Dr. Wynn. The time crawled by, each minute stretching into what felt like hours. Finally, the office door opened, and Silas emerged, looking drained but somehow lighter. "Mr. Granger," Dr. Wynn called. "Could you join us for a moment?" In her office, Silas curled up in a large armchair, while Dr. Wynn sat behind her desk, her expression grave but kind. "Silas has shown remarkable courage today," she began. "He shared some very troubling experiences." Levi glanced at his son, who gave a small nod. "I told her everything," Silas said quietly. "About the cupcakes. About Colt hurting my arm. About the things Mom said on the iPad." Silas has provided a consistent, detailed account that aligns with the medical and physical evidence, Dr. Wynn continued. "In my professional opinion, he is being truthfully honest. And based on what he's told me, I have serious concerns about Ms. Huxley's fitness as a parent." "Will you testify to that?" Levi asked. "I'll be submitting a comprehensive report to the court and CPS. And yes, I will testify if needed." Later, as they drove home, Silas stared out the window, unusually quiet. "You did a brave thing today," Levi told him. "Telling the truth isn't always easy." Dr. Wynn said Mom might not be able to see me anymore. Silas's voice was small. "Even for visits. Is that okay with you?" Silas considered this for a long moment. "I think so," he finally said. "She's not like I thought a mom would be." "No," Levi agreed softly. She's not. The following week brought developments in rapid succession. CPS issued a temporary no-contact order, barring Maribel from communicating with Silas in any way pending the outcome of their investigation. Dr. Wynn's report to the court recommended immediate suspension of all visitation rights, citing a pattern of manipulative and potentially harmful behavior. But most shocking of all was the news Mike delivered on a rainy Thursday afternoon. "Levi, I think we've got her." The toxicology lab finally identified the compound in Silas's system from the hospital visit. It's a specific formulation of ethylene glycol used in high-end automotive antifreeze, the exact brand sold at Colt's gym. His gym? What are you talking about? Colt Rennick owns Cross-Train Fitness on Maple Street. They sell supplements, protein powders, the works. And according to their purchase orders, which we subpoenaed last week, they also buy antifreeze in bulk for their fleet of promotional vehicles. Levi's mind raced. So we can prove they had access to the poison. Better than that, the security footage from the gym shows Maribel entering the storage room the day before Silas got sick. She was only in there for 3 minutes, but it's enough to establish opportunity. This is it. Levi could hardly believe it. This is what we needed. There's more. Mike's voice held a note of grim satisfaction. "Remember how you mentioned Colt had financial problems?" "Yeah, Maribel said something about needing money, that things didn't work out in Portland. Well, I had my paralegal dig into Colt's background. The man is drowning in debt. His gym is failing, he's behind on loan payments, taxes, everything. According to county records, he's facing foreclosure on the property. What does that have to do with us?" "I'm getting there. While we were investigating, I noticed something interesting. A lot of Colt's debt has recently been consolidated under a single creditor. Someone bought out all his loans. Who would do that? That's the beauty of it. It was a shell company. Untraceable at first glance. But my paralegal is thorough. She traced it back through 3 layers of incorporation. And it's you, Levi. Or rather, a company controlled by you." Levi froze. "What are you talking about? I didn't buy anyone's debt." "No, but Shania Voss did." The name clicked into place. Shania Voss's mother's maiden name combined with Karen's middle name. The corporation he'd set up years ago on his accountant's advice for liability protection when buying additional property for the garage's expansion. Shania Voss, LLC, now owns all of Colt Rennick's debt, Mike continued, "which means you have a legitimate financial claim against him and his business." Levi sat back, stunned. "I didn't authorize this." "No, but your accountant did. Under the General Investment Authority, you granted the LLC. He says he saw it as a sound financial move buying distressed debt at a discount." "How much are we talking about?" "Around $40,000, with penalties and interest closer to $50 now." An idea began to form in Levi's mind, a cold, calculated plan that fit together like the precision parts of an engine. What happens if Colt can't pay? Then Shania Voss, LLC, can seize his assets, including the gym. Standard lien clause in the loan paperwork. "Make it happen," Levi said quietly. "Call on the debt. All of it. Tomorrow." The demand for immediate repayment hit Colt like a hammer blow. Unable to come up with the money, he watched helplessly as legal notices were posted on his gym door. His clients began to drift away, his reputation in the small town unraveling thread by thread. Meanwhile, the evidence against Maribel mounted. The CPS investigation uncovered a pattern of manipulative behavior and concrete evidence linking her to the poisoning attempt. The temporary no-contact order became permanent pending the custody hearing. Cut off from Silas and watching her plan crumble, Maribel grew increasingly erratic. She called Levi at all hours, alternating between tearful pleas and venomous threats. She was spotted driving past his house at night, the Range Rover's engine a low growl in the darkness. Elora insisted on staying with them, sleeping on the couch with a baseball bat nearby. "She's spiraling," she warned Levi. "People like her, when they're cornered, they lash out." Her prediction came true one Friday afternoon. Levi was working at the garage when Dave, his front desk manager, called back to the service bay. "Boss, there's a situation out front." Levi emerged to find Colt and Maribel standing in the reception area. Colt's face was flushed with anger, a vein pulsing in his temple. Maribel stood slightly behind him, her eyes glittering with malicious anticipation. "You think you're clever?" Colt snarled. "Buying my debt, taking my business." Levi kept his voice level. "It was a business decision. Nothing personal." "Bullshit. You're trying to destroy me." Colt stepped closer, invading Levi's space. "Well, it won't work. I've got friends in this town, too. People who know what kind of man you really are. Step back." Levi didn't raise his voice, but something in his tone made Dave reach for the phone, ready to call the police. "Or what? You'll hit me?" Colt spread his arms wide. "Go ahead. One punch, and you lose your kid forever. That's assault, buddy. And with your history of violence." "My history?" Levi raised an eyebrow. "I think you're confusing me with yourself." "Everyone knows firefighters are hotheads," Maribel chimed in. "Remember that time you put your fist through the wall? Or how about when you threw that chair?" Silas remembers. He told his therapist all about Daddy's temper. "Get out of my garage," Levi said coldly. "Both of you. Make me." Colt stepped closer, chest puffed out, clearly hoping to provoke a reaction. "Dave," Levi called without taking his eyes off Colt. "Show them the new security system we installed last month." Dave clicked a few keys on the computer, turning the monitor to show a crystal-clear video feed of the confrontation from multiple angles. "Full audio, too," he added helpfully. "Record straight to the cloud. And we've got cameras covering every inch of the parking lot." The color drained from Maribel's face. Colt faltered, glancing at the cameras mounted in the corners of the ceiling. "Now," Levi said pleasantly, "you were just leaving, weren't you?" Colt's jaw worked as he fought against his own impulses. Finally, with a muttered curse, he turned and stalked out the door. Maribel lingered a moment longer, her expression a mixture of hate and calculation. "This isn't over," she said softly. "Not by a long shot." "Actually, Maribel," Levi replied, "I think it is." The custody hearing was rescheduled for the following week. With Dr. Wynn's evaluation, the CPS findings, and the new evidence linking Maribel to the poisoning attempt, Mike was confident they would not only maintain full custody, but potentially terminate Maribel's parental rights entirely. "But we need to prepare Silas," he cautioned. "He'll likely have to testify, at least in the judge's chambers." That night, Levi sat Silas down in the living room. "Bud, we need to talk about the hearing next week." Silas nodded solemnly. "I know. Mr. Mike said I might have to talk to the judge." "That's right. And I want you to know that it's okay to be scared, but the most important thing is to tell the truth. Even if it makes Mom look bad. Especially then." Levi took his son's small hands in his. "The truth might be hard, but it's always the right choice." Silas considered this. "Dad, why does she want me if she doesn't really love me?" The question broke Levi's heart. Sometimes people want things for the wrong reasons. "It's not about you, Silas. It's about what she thinks you can get her. The house. Your garage." "Yes. That's dumb," Silas said with the simple clarity of childhood. "If she wanted those things, she should have stayed and been nice." Levi couldn't help but smile. "You're pretty smart, you know that." "I know." Silas grinned back. "I get it from you." The morning of the hearing dawned clear and cold. Levi dressed in his best suit, the one he'd worn to Karen's funeral and hadn't touched since. Silas wore khaki pants and a button-down shirt that made him look older than his 9 years. "You ready?" Levi asked as they prepared to leave. Silas took a deep breath. "I think so. Remember, just tell the truth. That's all you have to do." The courthouse was a stately brick building in the center of town. Inside, the hallways echoed with footsteps and murmured conversations. Mike met them at the entrance to the family court, his expression serious but confident. "Judge Hamilton is presiding," he informed Levi. "She's fair, thorough, focuses on the child's best interests above all else." And Maribel, already inside with her lawyer. Colt's not with her. They entered the courtroom, a wood-paneled space smaller than Levi had expected. Maribel sat at a table on the left, wearing a demure navy dress, her hair pulled back in a conservative style. Beside her, a thin man in an expensive suit shuffled papers nervously. Levi, Mike, and Silas took their places at the right table. Silas sat between them, his legs swinging slightly as they didn't quite reach the floor. Judge Hamilton entered a stern woman in her 60s with silver hair cut in a no-nonsense bob. Everyone stood as she took her seat at the bench. "Be seated," she instructed. "We're here today in a matter of custody for Silas Granger, minor child of Levi Granger and Maribel Huxley. I've reviewed the case files, including the reports from Child Protective Services, Dr. Wynn's evaluation, and the medical evidence." She peered over her reading glasses at Maribel. "Ms. Huxley, I understand you're seeking joint custody after an absence of 6 years from the child's life. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Maribel replied, her voice small and contrite. "I've made mistakes in the past, but I've worked hard to become a better person, a better mother." The judge made a note. "And Mr. Granger, you're seeking not only to maintain full custody, but to terminate Ms. Huxley's parental rights entirely?" "Yes, Your Honor," Mike answered. Given the evidence of child endangerment, manipulation, and Ms. Huxley's clear statement that her interest in Silas is primarily as leverage for financial gain. "That's a lie," Maribel protested. "I would never." "Ms. Huxley," Judge Hamilton interrupted sharply. "You'll have your chance to speak. For now, I'd like to hear from Silas privately in my chambers." The judge's chambers were less intimidating than the courtroom, more like a professor's office, with bookshelves lining the walls and a desk cluttered with papers and family photos. Judge Hamilton sat not behind her desk, but in an armchair, inviting Silas to take the seat opposite her. "It's just us here, Silas," she said kindly. "No lawyers, no parents. Just you and me having a chat. Is that okay?" Silas nodded. "Good. I want you to know that nothing you say will get you in trouble. I just want to understand what's been happening and how you feel about it. Can you tell me about your mom coming back into your life?" Silas took a deep breath and began to speak. Quietly at first, then with growing confidence, he told the judge everything. The meetings at the school fence, the cupcakes that made him sick, the bruises from Colt, the voicemails on his iPad. "Mom told me if I cried enough, I'd get to live with her and her boyfriend. But I don't want that." His voice trembled slightly as he finished. "I want to stay with my dad. He's always been there. He doesn't lie to me." Judge Hamilton nodded gently. "Thank you, Silas. You've been very brave." When they returned to the courtroom, the proceedings continued with testimony from Dr. Wynn, who didn't mince words in her assessment. "Based on my evaluation, I consider Maribel Huxley to be a manipulative and potentially dangerous presence in Silas's life. She has systematically attempted to alienate him from his father through lies, has exposed him to toxins causing physical illness, and has demonstrated a disturbing lack of genuine concern for his emotional well-being." Maribel's lawyer tried to discredit the evaluation, suggesting Dr. Wynn was biased, but his arguments fell flat against the weight of her professional credentials and the corroborating evidence. Next came Officer Taylor, who testified about the bruises on Silas's arm and the pattern of concerning behavior observed over the previous months. Following him, a toxicologist explained the findings from Silas's hospital visit, confirming that the ethylene glycol found in his system matched the specific formulation used at Colt's gym. Throughout the testimony, Maribel grew increasingly agitated, whispering furiously to her lawyer, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. When it was her turn to testify, she attempted to present herself as a reformed woman who had made mistakes but deserved a second chance. "I was young when I left," she explained, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "I wasn't ready for the responsibilities of motherhood. But I've changed. I've grown. I only want what's best for Silas." "Ms. Huxley," Judge Hamilton fixed her with a penetrating stare. "If that's the case, perhaps you could explain the recording submitted by CPS, in which you discuss using Silas as a ticket to obtaining property and express irritation at having to spend time with him." Maribel paled. That's not what I meant. It was taken out of context. And the evidence linking you to the poisoning incident. I would never hurt my son." Maribel's composure cracked. "That was all Colt's idea. I didn't know what he was planning. He said it would just make the boy sick enough to miss school. Not to." She stopped abruptly, realizing what she'd admitted. Her lawyer closed his eyes in defeat. The final piece of evidence came when Mike played a recording, the one recovered from Maribel's car, now legally obtained through the CPS investigation. Maribel's own voice filled the courtroom. The idiot kid almost puked at school. Colt said I should have used more, he's getting soft. And Colt's reply, once Levi snaps, we report him. Boom. Custody. You sell the house. We're out. Maribel's face contorted with rage. That's illegal. You can't use that. Actually, Ms. Huxley, Judge Hamilton said coldly, this recording was legally obtained through the CPS investigation after an anonymous tip. The content has been verified as authentic by forensic analysts. As the hearing continued, the full extent of Maribel and Colt's plan unraveled. Financial records showed Colt's desperate financial situation. The manipulation of Silas was documented in painful detail, and their ultimate goal to obtain control of Levi's assets through custody of Silas became undeniably clear. But the final blow came from an unexpected quarter. As the hearing was wrapping up, the courtroom doors burst open, and a uniformed police officer entered, approaching the judge's bench. Your Honor, he said, handing her a document. I have an arrest warrant for Colt Rennick on charges of assault and battery. What is the meaning of this? Judge Hamilton asked, scanning the warrant. Mr. Rennick assaulted Levi Granger in the parking lot approximately 20 minutes ago. We have multiple witnesses and security footage. Mr. Granger is being treated for minor injuries at the hospital. Silas's eyes widened in alarm. Dad? Is Dad okay? Your father will be fine, Mike assured him quickly. Though his own expression was shocked, Judge Hamilton frowned. Where is Mr. Rennick now? In custody, Your Honor. We're processing him downtown. Maribel stood abruptly. This is a setup. Levi provoked him. I know it. Sit down, Ms. Huxley, Judge Hamilton ordered. Officer, thank you for bringing this to my attention. The officer nodded and left the courtroom. Judge Hamilton surveyed the room, her expression grave. In light of all the evidence presented today, including this disturbing new development, I'm prepared to render my decision. She turned to Maribel. Ms. Huxley, your actions demonstrate a pattern of manipulation, deceit, and disregard for your son's welfare that I find deeply troubling. You have used him as a pawn in a scheme to extort property and assets from his father, exposed him to physical and emotional harm, and shown little genuine concern for his well-being. She shifted her gaze to include the entire courtroom. It is the finding of this court that Levi Granger shall retain full and exclusive custody of Silas Granger. Furthermore, I am terminating all parental rights of Maribel Huxley, effective immediately. Ms. Huxley is to have no contact whatsoever with a minor child, directly or indirectly. The judge continued, her voice hardening. Additionally, I am ordering a criminal investigation into the attempted poisoning of Silas Granger, with both Ms. Huxley and Mr. Rennick named as persons of interest. Bailiff, please detain Ms. Huxley pending further investigation. Maribel's mask crumbled completely. You can't do this, she shrieked as the bailiff approached. He's my son. Mine. I have rights. Not anymore. You don't. Judge Hamilton said coldly. Take her away. As Maribel was led from the courtroom, still screaming, Silas turned to Mike, his eyes wide with confusion and relief. Where's my dad? I want to see my dad. We'll go to him right now, Mike promised, gathering their papers. The hearing is over, Silas. You're safe now. Outside the courthouse, reporters had already gathered, drawn by the drama of Maribel's arrest and rumors of the confrontation with Colt. Mike shielded Silas from their questions, guiding him quickly to the the hospital. They found Levi in the emergency room, being treated for a cut above his eye and bruised knuckles. He sat up as soon as he saw Silas, opening his arms. Silas ran to him, burying his face in his father's chest. Dad, are you okay? I'm fine, bud. Levi held his son tight. Just a little scuffle. What happened? Mike asked in an undertone. Colt was waiting in the parking lot when I stepped out to call Laura, Levi explained quietly. Started ranting about how I'd ruined everything. Well, I tried to walk away. He sucker punched me. Luckily, there were witnesses and security cameras. The judge terminated Maribel's parental rights. Mike informed him. Full custody to you. And she ordered a criminal investigation into the poisoning. Relief washed over Levi's face. It's over. It's over. They both went down swinging, but they're down for good. The aftermath unfolded over the following months. Colt was charged with assault and, later, with conspiracy to commit child endangerment. With his gym seized by creditors and his reputation in ruins, he accepted a plea deal. 3 years in prison in exchange for testimony against Maribel. Maribel herself faced more serious charges: attempted poisoning of a minor, child endangerment, conspiracy to commit fraud. The evidence against her was overwhelming, especially once Colt turned on her, revealing their entire plan in exchange for leniency. It was a cold, rainy day in February when Levi received the call from Mike. She took a deal. 7 to 10 years, with mandatory psychiatric evaluation and treatment. No contact with Silas ever, not even after release. Levi sat on his back porch, phone pressed to his ear, watching the rain drip from the eaves. Good. How's Silas doing? Better. The nightmares are less frequent. Dr. Wynn says he's processing everything remarkably well. Kids are resilient, especially when they have a solid foundation. That's what I'm trying to give him. After hanging up, Levi remained on the porch, lost in thought. The past 6 months had been a crucible, burning away everything but what truly mattered. In that fire, he discovered exactly how far he would go to protect his son, and it was further than he'd ever imagined. He'd been ruthless, calculated, even manipulative in his own way. He'd set traps and sprung them without mercy. But unlike Maribel, he'd done it all for Silas, not for property or revenge. The garage was thriving. Colt's gym, after being seized, had been sold at auction, ironically, to a women's self-defense studio. Levi had moved on, rebuilding the quiet life he and Silas had enjoyed before Maribel's return, but with a new appreciation for its fragility. That a week later, a letter arrived from the women's prison where Maribel was serving her sentence. Levi recognized her handwriting on the envelope, the swooping curves and sharp angles unchanged from years ago. He held it for a long moment, feeling its insignificant weight in his hand. Then he walked to the fireplace, struck a match, and watched the unopened letter curl and blacken in the flames, taking whatever poisonous words it contained with it. That evening, Elora came over for dinner, bringing homemade lasagna and garlic bread that filled the house with mouth-watering aromas. Silas had set the table without being asked, arranging the plates and silverware with careful precision. "This is amazing," Levi said as they ate. "You should open a restaurant instead of sticking needles in people all day." Elora laughed. "Cooking for 2 people is therapeutic. Cooking for 100 would be torture." "Dad says I can join the baseball team in the spring," Silas announced, changing the subject with the abruptness of childhood. "Coach Meyer said I have a good arm." "You definitely do," Elora agreed. "Remember that time you threw a rock all the way across Miller's Creek?" "I couldn't believe it." Silas beamed at the memory, then grew thoughtful. "Dad, is Mom ever coming back?" The question caught Levi off guard. He and Elora exchanged a quick glance before he answered carefully, "No, bud. She's not coming back. She's in prison, and after that, she's not allowed to contact us." "Good." Silas nodded decisively. "I like our life better without her." "Me too," Levi admitted. "But it's okay if you still have questions about her, or if you miss the idea of having a mom." "I had Karen Mom," Silas said, naming his stepmother with unexpected maturity. "She was nice. And I have Elora. She's like having a mom and a cool aunt in one person." Elora's eyes glistened with sudden tears. "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, kiddo." Later, after Silas had gone to bed and Elora had left, Levi stood on the back porch again, staring out at the dark woods beyond his property. The rain had stopped, leaving the night air clean and sharp with the scent of pine. In those woods, as a child, he'd learned the most important lesson of his life. Sometimes the best defense is not a high fence, but the quiet, watchful patience of someone who knows exactly what he's protecting. Some wolves hunt in packs, making a spectacle of their strength. Others build fences and wait. Levi Granger was done waiting. His fence was built, his son was safe, and the wolves had been driven back into the darkness where they belonged. He turned and went inside, closing the door softly behind him.